Well, an event at the History Museum at the castle in downtown Appleton is helping people get ready to celebrate this year's 4th of July with Constitution Square. Now, Constitution Square commemorates the 250th anniversary of the nation's Declaration of Independence. Now, those who attended the event were able to take pictures with Lady Liberty, create art flags, sign a We the People banner, and get help registering to vote as well. We spoke with one of the event's organizers about why they're proud to be an American.
We still have freedom. I've traveled around the world in other places where it's not free, where there are no services, where, we may have trouble with some corruption in our government, but places where all service money is raked off the top.
Now, if you missed out on today's event, Constitution Square will be open every Saturday this summer alongside the Appleton Farmers Market.